Once upon a time, deep in the heart of Australia, lived a light blue platypus named Jack and a pink wombat named Jill. They weren't just any platypus and wombat. They were the best of friends. Jack, with his duck-like bill and webbed feet, loved to swim and explore the quiet rivers. Jill, with her round fuzzy body and strong little legs, was a champion burrow digger. Their home was a peaceful place, full of rustling leaves and the gentle hum of insects. But Jack and Jill had always dreamed of something more, something different. They had heard tales of a place called the Big City, a place with towering trees made of glass and steel, and rivers of roaring metal monsters. One sunny morning, Jill waddled over to Jack, who was practicing his backstroke in the creek. "Jack," she said, her little nose twitching with excitement, "I've been thinking. We've heard so many stories about the big city. Don't you think it's time we saw it for ourselves?" Jack popped his head out of the water, sending ripples across the surface. "The big city, Jill, but it's so far away, and they say it's noisy and crowded, but it's also full of wonders," Jill replied. "Imagine it. Lights that sparkle brighter than the stars, and sounds we've never heard before. It will be our greatest adventure." Jack thought for a moment. An adventure did sound exciting. "All right, Jill," he said with a grin. "Let's do it. Let's go to the big city." So, they packed their little bags. Jack packed his favorite smooth river stone, and Jill packed a particularly tasty root she'd been saving. They hopped on a friendly kangaroo bus, which bounced them all the way to the edge of the sprawling metropolis. When they arrived, they stood with their mouths wide open. The buildings were taller than the tallest gum trees they had ever seen, reaching up to touch the clouds. The sounds weren't like the gentle whispers of the bush. They were a symphony of honks, rumbles, and chattering voices. "Wow," whispered Jack, his blue fur seeming even brighter against the grey pavement. "It's big," said Jill, her pink ears swiveling to take in all the new noises. It was a little scary, but mostly it was thrilling. Their first stop was a grand tour of the city on a big, red, double-decker bus. They climbed all the way to the top deck, where the wind ruffled their fur. "Look, Jack," Jill pointed with her little paw. "That building looks like a giant shiny pickle." Jack laughed. "And that one looks like it's twisting into the sky." The bus took them past famous landmarks. They saw a giant clock tower that chimed a deep, melodious bong every hour. They drove over a massive bridge that stretched across a wide, blue harbour, with little white boats sailing below, like water bugs. Everything was new and exciting. They had never seen so many different people, all rushing here and there, each with a place to go. Next, the bus stopped at a place the tour guide called a museum. Inside, it was quiet and cool. Jack and Jill tiptoed across the polished floors, their little feet making soft pattering sounds. They saw the skeleton of a giant dinosaur that made Jack feel very, very small. They saw paintings of beautiful landscapes and portraits of serious-looking people from long ago. In one room, there were shiny artifacts from ancient civilizations, sparkling under the lights. Jill was fascinated by a display of colorful gems. "They look like berries made of rainbows," she whispered to Jack. Jack was more interested in an old map of the world. "Look, Jill," he said, pointing with his webbed foot. "That's our home, way over there. And this is where we are now. We've come so far." After the museum, their tummies started to rumble. The city smelled of so many delicious things. They followed their noses to a bustling food market. There were stalls piled high with colourful fruits they'd never seen before, breads of all shapes and sizes, and wonderful, sweet-smelling pastries. A kind vendor gave them a sample of something called ice cream. It was cold and sweet, and melted on their tongues. Jack tried a vanilla cone, which left a little white spot on his bill. Jill chose strawberry, which matched her pink fur perfectly. "This is the best tasting mud I've ever had," Jill declared happily, forgetting for a moment that it wasn't mud at all. They sat on a bench and watched the world go by, enjoying their sweet treats. As the afternoon sun began to dip lower, they decided to visit the biggest park in the city. It was like a little piece of the countryside, tucked right in the middle of all the buildings. There were green lawns, shady trees, and a pond with graceful swans gliding across it. Jack couldn't resist. He slipped into the pond for a quick swim, feeling right at home in the water, even if it was a city pond. Jill, meanwhile, found a soft patch of grass and tried to dig a little burrow, but the city soil was much harder than she was used to. She giggled and instead rolled around on the soft grass, feeling the sun on her fur. They saw children flying colourful kites that danced in the wind, and dogs chasing frisbees with joyful barks. As evening approached, the city began to transform. Thousands of lights flickered on, turning the streets into rivers of gold, and the buildings into sparkling towers. Jack and Jill found a spot on a hill in the park that overlooked the entire city. The view was breathtaking. "It's like all the stars have fallen out of the sky and landed right here," Jack said in awe. "It's beautiful," Jill agreed, leaning her head on Jack's shoulder. The noises of the day had softened into a gentle hum. They weren't scary anymore. They were like the city's lullaby. They sat there for a long time, just watching, feeling small, but also feeling like they were a part of something magical. Feeling sleepy, they found their way back to the bus station. As they rode the kangaroo bus back towards the quiet of their home, they looked out the window at the receding lights of the city. "That was the best adventure ever," Jill said with a happy sigh. "It was," said Jack. "The city was big and loud, but it was also full of wonder and kindness." "And ice cream," they both laughed. When they finally arrived back at their peaceful creek, the familiar sounds of crickets and rustling leaves felt more comforting than ever. They were happy to be home. That night, as Jill snuggled into her cozy burrow and Jack floated gently on the calm river, they both dreamed of their big adventure. They dreamed of the tall buildings, the rumbling bus, the delicious new foods, and the city lights that sparkled like a million fallen stars. They loved their quiet home in the bush, but now they knew that the world was a very big place, full of exciting things to see and do. And they knew, without a doubt, that as long as they had each other, any adventure, big or small, was possible. Thank you so much for joining Jack and Jill on their city adventure. We hope you had as much fun as they did. If you enjoyed their story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more fun tales. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.